about some issues that are pretty common today that may or may not have been 30 years ago, and we'll focus on that. My handout is in the back. I obviously didn't pass it out. If you want to go grab one, you're welcome to do that. I'm going to touch on reading, socialization, homework and the school day, college admission, adult life and second-generation homeschoolers, and naysayers. Okay, so as has already been stated, it's really important that one of the steepest learning curves for many parents who are instructing their children at home is unlearning the beliefs and the attitudes that we have held to be true, having been the products of public and private school. It can be very hard to release the idea that going to school, even in a homeschool, means doing academics for, according to Connecticut statistics, 6.47 hours per day and 181 school days per year. It doesn't. Studies have shown that the actual amount of pencil to paper time in a public school is 60 to 90 minutes per day. Is it any wonder then that as homeschoolers know academic work can be completed in a few hours per day? Well, what about the other 4 hours per day? Homeschoolers can do more academics in a chosen area beyond the basics. They can go to a co-op, on a field trip, participate in ice skating, roller skating, park days, game days, fencing, martial arts, music lessons, art lessons, college classes, library visits to many towns, internships, other volunteer work, visits with fellow homeschoolers for meetups. They can take some impressive travel vacations, and it's really nearly unlimited. It's been said that the world is their school ground, and it really is. We even have casual, semi-formal, and formal dances. Okay, so that's one issue. Another issue is reading, especially for parents that are homeschooling younger children. There's a few things I want to mention here. There's a book called Children, Teach Your Child to Read in 100 Easy Lessons. That used to be the most popular book in the school systems. It was a pilot study, and it was the most popular one that had been done. A lot of homeschoolers will use that. It really only takes a maximum of 15 minutes per day. I used it for all of my kids. By the time we got to lesson 50, they were fluently reading and we never had to finish the book. And I've heard that from a lot of parents. The other thing is, when you use a book like that, you know, we think in terms of, and we're trained to be consistently progressive. If you're in school, you're going to do math or reading or science or whatever for a set amount of time per week, and they don't deviate from that. But with a book like this, let's just say that you work with your child and you get up through lesson 10, and then the kid starts to bawl because they're not understanding. Well, then you put the book away and you pick it up in a few more weeks or maybe in a month, because as every mom and dad in this room knows, not all babies crawl at 6 months old. Some babies will walk before they crawl. You get the idea. And it's no different with their learning. It's very individualized. That is normal. Categorizing everything on a strict schedule, like they do in the public schools, gets reflected in a grade to how you adapt to their schedule. So that's something to think about, and for us as adults to untrain ourselves and to trust our children. They will show you what they need. Okay, so Mary Ann mentioned Dr. Peter Gray. I'm going to mention him too. He has an article. It's very lengthy, and the links are in here if you want to follow it up. It's Children Teach Themselves to Read, the Unschoolers' account of how children learn to read. And I think that everybody can learn a lot from this. I'm going to quote from him. This is not me speaking. This is individualized learning, but it does not require brain imaging or cognitive scientists, and it requires little effort on the part of anyone other than the child who is learning. Each child knows exactly what his or her own learning style is. They will show you, just watch them. That ties into what Marianne was talking about. You'll see what their propensities are. You already know what they are. In this study, there were 16 students who had learned how to read since enrolling in the school. And they had received no systematic reading instruction. They already knew how to read when they got there. So these students were interviewed, their parents were interviewed, and the school staff was trying to figure out when, why, and how each of them learned to read. From as young as age 4 to as old as age 14. From complete non-reading to fluent reading in just a matter of weeks. Now I'm going to take a little aside here. How many of us know that you could try to force a child to be potty trained when they're not ready, or you can wait until they're ready and it's obvious, and you can get it done in a few days or a week? This is what this all ties into, trusting our children. Okay, so they went from complete non-reading to fluent reading in a matter of a few weeks. Others learned more slowly, whether working on phonics or that they just picked it up. And some kids do. They don't need all of that instruction because you can read to them. They could be 3 years old, 4 years old, and they're understanding something that you are not systematically giving them. And the next thing you know, they're reading to you. That's happened to, it's not for every child, but it can happen because they're all different, and that's the point. So the 7 principles that Peter Gray mentions, the principles of learning to read without schooling. Number 1, for non-school children, there is no critical period or best age for learning to read. Number 2, motivated children can go from apparent non-reading to fluent reading very quickly. Number 3, attempts to push reading can backfire. That's true of many things in parenting. We learn that the hard way, and if our kids are super lucky, we know that going in. Number 4, children learn to read when reading becomes to them a means to some valued end or ends. 5, reading, like many other skills, is learned socially through shared participation. 6, some children become interested in writing before reading, and they learn to read as they learn to write. 7, there is no predictable course through which children learn to read. All educators need to realize that many ways that homeschool children learn to read and account to contrast with all those rows of books on teaching reading that exist in the education section of every university library. Not to do so and claim a one-size-fits-all model of education does nothing more than set up a guaranteed percentage of children for failure. And the link is here for the complete article, which, like I said, it's quite lengthy. Okay, so the third topic is socialization with Megan. Megan already touched on that. I just have a little bit to say about that. It's 2019. Unsocialized, weird homeschoolers are a myth. At the current time, homeschooling is certainly a mainstream word, and most people know someone who's homeschooling. It's an education option considered by many parents when making education decisions for their family. Homeschoolers meet with people of all ages, and they always have. They are not limited to a few classrooms and one building for 180 days a year. Homeschoolers don't have to be quiet in the lunchroom when they have about 20 or 30 minutes for lunch. They don't have to get a hall pass in order to go to the bathroom or anywhere else in the building. Unlike public school students, homeschoolers don't face issues of daily bullying by peers and adults, sexual or physical assault by peers or adults, school shooting fears and anxiety, school-related depression or suicides. You may or may not know this. If you research this topic, you will learn that there is a documented epidemic now in America of sexual and physical abuse happening in schools across America on a daily basis. This is happening from adults to children. There is a public Facebook page titled Connecticut Research that documents many of these incidents as they make the news across the country. This includes Connecticut. Given these issues, it's more than fair to question what model is really weird and unsocialized, not to mention a serious safety issue. One other little quick section here is drugging public school kids isn't necessary. You can follow up on the link that is in my handout. The ADHD overdiagnosis epidemic is a schooling problem, not a child one. And that is written by Carrie McDonald, who is a homeschool mom in Massachusetts. She's an unschooling mom of her 4 children. Okay, homework on the school day. Teens get more sleep and show improved grades and attendance with later school start time. I think we've probably all heard this, and it is a benefit of home education. If you have to get up at 5 o'clock in the morning, 5:30 in the morning, in order to get to your high school, it's been known for a long time that it's just not the healthiest for these teenagers. And with homeschoolers, if they sleep in until 9 or 10 or whatever, it doesn't matter. They get done what they need to get done. And it doesn't matter if it's Monday through Friday. It can be Saturday, it can be Sunday, it can be in the evenings. It doesn't make any difference. They're gonna learn. The other issue is homework. Kids have 3 times too much homework, study finds. At what cost? This is a controversial topic. There are many books written on it. There are educators, public school educators, that believe that the kids should have homework, that it's a matter of how much. And there are others that don't believe in homework. So I can't say that I have an answer for that, but I know that I have been on both sides of that fence. While I have homeschooled most of my children, some of them were back a long time ago when I first started. My 2 oldest children were never homeschooled. They both graduated, and proud mama moment, I'm happy to say that they were in the top 10 of their class. They both now have their PhDs, and they enjoyed their public school experience. That was also quite a while ago. I don't know that they would say that today. I'll just let that sit right there. Times have changed very much. 5, let's see. College admission. These are things that parents are concerned about, and rightly so. You just need to understand. College admission and the quality of homeschooling. There is no link between the amount of public school spending, the per pupil expenditure, and the achievement of a homeschool child, or a public school child. There's no correlation between the amount of money spent. And Megan, is that on your handout? Because you had a lot of data, or Crystal had it. It's on there, okay. Please look at that. Okay, I'm just getting my handout straight. Crystal does have a lot of data along that line. And that's something that comes up with critics, naysayers. They can spend $11,000 or $15,000 per pupil in a school, and it's not going to guarantee a quality outcome. The other thing that I know is in her handout is the education of the parent also has no bearing on the outcome. There are so many resources for homeschooling that there are parents that can learn alongside their student. I'm not talking about at grade level, but we always learn new things. Nobody knows it all, and we're always learning new things, and you can learn with your child. You can research with your child. It just depends what you choose to do. Okay, so I'm going to read this. Decades of increased taxpayer spending per student in the U.S. public schools has not improved student or school outcomes. From that education, and a new study finds that throwing money at the system is simply not tied to academic improvements. There's a study from the Cato Institute showing that American student performance has remained poor and has actually declined in mathematics and verbal skills, despite per pupil spending tripling over the same 40-year period. The takeaway from this study is that what we've done over the past 40 years hasn't worked. Andrew Coulson, director of the Center for Educational Freedom at the Cato Institute, told Watchdog.org, the average performance change nationwide has declined 3% in mathematical and verbal skills. Moreover, there's been no relationship effectively between spending and academic outcomes, and the link to that is also included here. The link to the entire study is also included here. How homeschooling affects college admissions. Here's an excerpt from another article that was just from last year. While most colleges don't have a separate application for homeschooled students, they should provide additional information about their academic studies, such as detailing course descriptions as part of their homeschool transcript. If a homeschooler wants to go to a selective college, then they need to make sure that the college is looking for someone like them. For homeschooling parents and students, here are a few things to keep in mind when preparing to apply to colleges and universities. Preparing a high school transcript can be helpful when applying to college, especially if it is a four-year university. The community colleges were less strict about their admissions procedures. And again, there's a link. If this is a topic that's calling you, the information is there. Even speaking only of Connecticut, there are different admissions requirements for all of the community colleges. They're very similar. It gets more differentiated when you're going to a four-year university. So the best thing to do is to contact the colleges or universities that you're interested, go to their admissions department and ask them, what is your criteria? I have a homeschooled child here, and you'll find that out. That's basically what I just said. Okay, this is very quick. Adult life and second generation homeschoolers. There are a couple of articles here. We're not only into second generation homeschoolers, we're into third generation homeschoolers. So there are a lot of people that enjoyed the freedom of their homeschool experience, and now they're homeschooling their children, and there are grandmas that are homeschooling their grandchildren as well. So again, I'm going to refer you to the links. And then there's the topic of naysayers. As long as I've been homeschooling, and it's been a long time, there have always been naysayers. Depending on the time frame from 30 years ago till today, it has looked a little different. Today is the worst I have ever seen it. Simultaneously with home education becoming a household word, and almost everybody knows somebody that's homeschooling, there are people that simply can't leave it alone. They don't, in my opinion, truly respect the diversity that they preach, because home education is a proven, successful, viable alternative, and it should be respected. But there are a few people that don't. They want to control it. Increased regulation will not prove that there's going to be a positive outcome. There are many children that are socially promoted in public school that are graduating, and they are functionally illiterate. We are seeing this in the colleges. I could elaborate on that from this finishing semester in a particular college. I know this from firsthand experience from a family member. full-time in a college, all of the final exams were canceled as they were originally slated to be, and they all had open book exams. Need I say more? Yeah. So homeschoolers have been accepted into just about almost every community college and four-year university in this country. I myself have received, and I'm not alone, I'm not saying this is special, my husband and I have received phone calls from professors thanking us for homeschooling our children because they were so engaged in the classroom. What homeschooler do you know is going to go to college unless they want to be there? That is antithetical to what homeschooling is all about. We're not going to do that to our kids. Is anybody in this room not aware of what happened last year with the assault on homeschooling in Connecticut? You are not aware, not aware, not aware. 4 people, 5 people, 6 people. There was an assault on our freedom. How much time do I have?
Like a minute.
Huh?
A minute.
I have 1 minute. There was a very significant attack by the state. We prevailed. Over the last 30 years, we've had various assaults on our freedom. We have prevailed every time. The truth has prevailed every time. It's not over. It happened again this year. There was a public hearing. We prevailed again. We have reason to believe next year it will happen again. This is happening nationwide. Parental rights are under attack. And on that note, I implore you, all of this data that you're going to go home with, once a night, several times a week, whatever it takes, follow up on all of this. We put a lot of effort into this because we know this is what you need to know. However you homeschool, I was very eclectic, very laid back, and it worked. My kids are either in college or they're already graduated from college, or I have younger ones than her. She's just graduating now. She's never been to public school, and she just started college. She took a law class, and we'll see where she goes with that. So, let me say this real quick. The top 5 arguments against homeschooling, won't they be weird and unsocialized? No. What about the high school experiences? The second most popular trump card is the high school. That's what's used against us. How could you not have your kid have a high school experience? Okay, well, not worried about it. And they're not living in a bubble. Won't they be unable to go to college? It is a known fact that homeschooled kids do better in tests than their peers, and as has already been stated, they graduate at a higher rate as well, because they're there for the right reasons. Number 4, how can you teach your children if you are not a certified teacher? The answer to this is most homeschool parents are not certified teachers, some of them are, that the proof is in the pudding. And homeschooling is really what we have been doing for many, many, many generations. Public school is fairly new, and we might forget that from time to time. And won't you be sheltering them from the real world? Our kids are not limited to a classroom. We know that. This is the thought process that we're up against. So, next, we're going to have Attorney Deborah Stevenson speak, and then we're going to do Q&A. And we want to get a feel for where she can go in the conversation. On the CHN website and also in the back of the room, we have a page on the legal requirements when you're going to start homeschooling. Then there's the letter of withdrawal. If your child is enrolled, then you need to withdraw them, so they're not called truant. And this is the copy of the notice of intent. This is not a document that any homeschooler ever agreed to, ever. But it is your choice whether or not you file it. How many people in this room need more information tonight on these issues right here?